Patriarch.
Me personally, I would like for us to talk about land allocation. Also, I would like for we need to talk about some of those Indian treaties that's already in law. They've just not been enforced. Dr. Claude Anderson has been going back and forth to court about the treaties, like the Treaty of 1866, how some of these Native American tribes owe black freedmen and their descendants some of the resources and some of the land. That's something that I think we should bring to the politicians. Also, funds and resources allocated towards black business development. Those are things that I think we should bring to the politicians. What are some other suggestions that you brothers think that we should bring to them for tangibles?
If I had my druthers, I would duplicate exactly what happened for those white boys who came back from World War II in the 1940s. If you're a white male who came back from the war, the U.S. government made sure that you had the GI Bill, you had free education. They made sure that you had a housing grant, not a housing loan. They made sure you had a housing grant. A lot of those bungalows out in California paid for by the U.S. government with housing grants. And they also made sure the Small Business Administration gave you a business grant, not a loan. If I had my ideas about it, we would have a TARP fund for black people in America. For black people who are descendants of slaves, we would have a TARP fund for us. They had a TARP program in the modern era where they spent literally trillions of dollars to bail out the banks and then turned around and told black folk, ain't no money for you.
As you see, we were on a conference, me and my other brothers, telling you what tangibles to bring to these politicians, what type of plans we need to bring to them about giving resources to us, creating what could be compared to a Marshall Plan, talking about land allocation, talking about resource allocation, talking about amnesty, talking about sovereignty to a certain degree where, they can't come into certain neighborhoods harming us. A lot of great ideas that we can bring to the table when we're talking about tangibles, and we got to be unafraid to say we want these for black people.
So what exactly do Democrats believe? Well, the modern Democratic Party traces its roots to the progressive President Franklin D. Roosevelt. At the height of the Great Depression, Roosevelt created Social Security and other big government programs meant to protect the unemployed and the working poor. Through government-sponsored public works projects, he created jobs and opportunities for those suffering from the stock market crash. Today, Democrats still believe in the power of government to provide a just and equal society. Democrats advocate stricter government regulation on big business and larger participation in the social safety net. The party also champions the middle class and has generally supported labor movements and unions. They do this by promoting progressive tax plans in which wealthier members of society pay a higher percentage on their income than the poor or middle class. On social issues, Democrats are seen as being open to societal change, often helping those who face discrimination and poverty. Although they generally oppose undocumented immigration, they believe that the government should help those who want to immigrate while focusing on deporting dangerous criminals. The Democratic Party considers itself an ally for LGBT causes, citing the president's support for same-sex marriage. In addition, they believe in a proper separation of church and state, along with stricter gun control laws.
So what exactly do Republicans believe? They believe there should be limited government interference in daily life as it leads to a better functioning state. This means fewer business regulations and smaller bureaucracies in public institutions. When it comes to the economy, Republicans tend to believe in the power of the free market to generate wealth. In this system, it's believed that low taxes for the rich will prompt them to invest in businesses, thus creating more jobs, causing the wealth to trickle down to the poor. Republicans also tend to hold conservative views on social issues. Despite gay marriage bans being ruled unconstitutional in 2015, candidates like Ben Carson and Mike Huckabee have expressed their opposition to the idea. The 2012 platform opposes a redefinition of marriage and maintains an anti-abortion stance. Republicans are also known for supporting the military. Ever since Theodore Roosevelt's presidency, the GOP has advocated for American exceptionalism and intervention around the world.
According to some of the numbers that Dr. Lowry gave us a little while ago, when you do the math, when you multiply the suggested amount of reparations by the number of blacks in the United States, it works out to be about $3.5 trillion spent on reparations. In a few minutes, Mr. Murdoch will explain to you just how expensive, impractical, and unfair reparations are to us as individuals. But right now, I want to explain how reparations would come at the direct expense of what we need most to solve this problem.
I see you bring up the point of reparations in your show often, and I see you bring it up to most of the times to people who are not prepared with enough data.
Now, you're not going to like me probably because I'm against reparations, but I say this: look, if African Americans get reparations from the government, okay, then everybody has to get them. Native Americans have to get them. Chinese Americans have to get them. I have to get a whole bunch of stuff in the crown, all right? So I'm saying we all acknowledge slavery was bad. It hurt African Americans. It continues to hurt them to this day, all right? We all acknowledge that. But by giving you or anybody else a check, you do more damage than good. It's simply not fair. We're going to give reparations to every Union soldier's family that was killed trying to free the slaves. Are we going to do that?
Right? Social justice suggests that, I, as a supposedly white man, Jews became white people as soon as we became successful in America. I, as a white man, I'm responsible for paying slavery reparations, for example, in the name of social justice, even though all of my ancestors were busy getting killed by Cossacks in Russia at the time that slavery was taking place. And less than 5% of white Americans alive today have ancestors who ever held slaves. Every white person in America, though, has to pay because of group justice. How is that just? It's not. But it's group justice. It's social justice.
What's your position?
My position is, sure, slavery was a horrible thing that happened, but this is not going to help race relations in the United States today. It's not going to help the dialogue. And now it would be different if residents today were affected themselves because of something that happened back in the 1800s. But unfortunately, now all it's going to do is cause more tension amongst the races.
We are 41 million people strong in this country. 41 million, that is a country. That is a country like Argentina. That is a country like Spain. We, in 2012, will be spending $1 trillion. That's the power that we have. Now, you can't tell me that with 41 million people united with $1 trillion, we can't get what we need from this government.
Hello, I'm Jeffrey Johnson II. This is Pastor Jeffrey Johnson Sr. Our community has over $1 trillion worth of spending power. So it's time for us to use that spending power to support our minorities and small businesses to uplift and empower our communities.
And we have the prime opportunity to do so during the summer celebration. So meet me in the exhibition hall so we can support the small businesses and minority businesses who have helped our community to survive and thrive. So join me there.
When you consider that presidents have been trying since Teddy Roosevelt to get health care passed, FDR was hoping to do it, JFK.
No matter how hard the road, what history will record is that Obama got it done.
We are done.
This is the story of the epic battle to pass Obamacare.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
First, Obama took his case to the very people he knew would try to kill it. And there were others Obama needed on his side. The special interests, insurance companies, big pharma, the doctors' associations.
Karen represents America's health insurance plans.
We understand we have to earn a seat at the table.
He wanted the very groups that had killed healthcare reform in the past inside the room now. In March 2009, he brought them all to the White House.
We kept every one of those, but one, at the table.
All of the groups here need to stay involved.
They all made demands. Obama made deals.
None of these groups are doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They're negotiating. They want the best deal possible.
He compromised on the thing that was most sacred to him, the individual mandate, that every citizen buy health care. The idealistic candidate had become a steely-eyed pragmatist.
We will! Freedom! Yes, we will! Freedom!
And he made more concessions, giving up the public option, which would have created a government insurance program that would have competed with private companies.
We ended up having to wrestle this thing to the ground in a way that was less than ideal from my perspective.
Finally, March 21, 2010.
On this vote, the yeas are 219, the nays are 212. The motion to concur in the Senate amendment is adopted.
For decades, they've been trying to do it. It has now been done.
Without a single Republican vote, the bill passed. The White House celebrated.
Some aspects of black power are very disturbing to us because it means revolution. It means violence. But other aspects of black power are very constructive because it means that black people, they want to stand on their own feet. They want to have black banks and not just go to white banks. They want to have black businesses and not just go to the white businesses. And they should have, and they will have.
There's a direct relationship between having the businesses and being in prison. Go find see how many Asians you can find in American prisoners. They ain't gonna be in there. But 51% of your prisoners will be black because blacks don't have any businesses and industries. There's a direct link. Blacks won't practice group economics. Blacks won't practice group politics. If you don't practice, you're setting yourself up. I told that 5-story building, you're setting yourself to get wiped out. Understand the nature of race, which is economics. If you build the first floor, it's economic. Build your businesses and your industries. Control business and industry, and put that pulls in your money, and hold that money.
African-American owned businesses are the most rapidly growing businesses in our country today. However, they tend to have issues with access to capital. They also face issues with collateral, and it makes it difficult for them to expand their businesses as they don't have the resources.
Now, each year we ask the same question: what is the state of Black America? Today, our esteemed panelists will answer that question as it relates to the state of Black business.
Black women are the fastest growing entrepreneurial group in the country, period, right now, followed by Latino women. So we're seeing good things in that area. But the issue of access to capital, the issue of mentorship, these are issues that we address annually at the Black Enterprise Entrepreneur Summit, is a major one, because now the issue is no longer just starting businesses. Because starting businesses that employ only 1 or 2 people, that's not bad, but it's not going to address the larger issues when we talk about the state of Black America, which is job creation and wealth creation.
And I really want to kind of push back on the idea that African Americans don't support African American owned businesses. And I really want to kind of push back on the idea that African Americans don't support African American owned businesses. I've found in my own experiences that if it were not for the African American community, for Black people who rallied behind me, that neither one of my businesses would have flourished to the point that it has, because the support of the community was so strong financially and also spiritually, and also just to get the mentoring that I needed from other business owners, that was important. And so
as soon as a black person gets paid, before it touches another black hand, he runs right to the suburbs and spends it. He spends 95% of his money immediately outside his own community. He spends 95% of his money immediately outside his own community. He keeps 5% to take back into his community. Out of 5% he takes back into his community, he spends 3% of that in non-black owned hands in his own communities. Look around your neighborhood, goes into non-black owned businesses. Only 2% again, only 2% of all the black people in America keep their own money in their own communities.
Metro Foodland, oh yeah, we got what you need. Come to Metro Foodland.
Metro Foodland, your one-stop grocery mart, conveniently located at the Grandland Shopping Center in Detroit.
Metro Foodland, oh yeah, we got what you need.
My family loves Metro Foodland.
We violate every principle of economics. Your money is supposed to stay inside your community and bounce 8 to 12 times before it leaves. Black money does not bounce one time. You know why it doesn't bounce one time? Because you don't have any communities to bounce it in. You're so busy integrating. Where are you going to bounce it? How are you going to pass it through another black hand? You go bankrupt every 24 hours just as regular clock, and whites don't take you serious. They know that anybody who goes bankrupt every 24 hours should not be taken seriously. They know you're gonna violate all the rules.
Segregation was good for entrepreneurs because, number one, white funeral homes didn't bury blacks. White barbers didn't cut black hair. Okay? So blacks control the taxi industry, going through. So, and what I'm really trying to do is remind blacks of the values we once had that we don't have today.
Tariffs, also known as duties, are taxes that are placed on imports and exports out of a country. Unlike a sales tax, tariff rates are often different for every good. Some goods face high tariffs, while others face low tariffs. Tariffs, along with other applicable fees, are collected during customs clearance and serve several different functions. They are used to generate income for the federal government, protect domestic businesses, protect domestic technology, and also protect growing industries. By levying tariffs, it raises the prices of foreign goods and makes it harder for foreign companies to penetrate the domestic market. Tariffs are sometimes detrimental to the global economy because it inhibits free trade and they decrease innovation if an industry is overprotected. But if employed correctly, they can help protect a nation and its economy.
Now, a non-tariff barrier can be a few things. First, it can be as extreme as an embargo. An embargo is an outright ban on all imports. The United States maintains economic sanctions on Iran, for instance, which includes a ban on their exports entering the United States. Second, it could be a quota or a quantitative restriction. An import quota is a rule that says only a certain amount of product X from country Y can enter a country during a certain period of time.
To think about how we capture that spend, capitalize on it, and grow it in a strategic way in our commercial corridors and within our neighborhoods. I think we have tremendous potential.
Morgan Chase & Company, September Hargrove.
Good afternoon. Over the next couple of slides, I'm going to really focus in on two types of data that we've captured, one being the local consumer commerce index, which really looks at the card transactions of our customers across the country. We focused in on 14 cities where we've been able to really drill down into what are our customers purchasing, what are the demographics of those customers, where are they buying it at.
Johnson started her business out of her bedroom on Chicago's West Side nearly 30 years ago. She owns this building and this equipment. Today, she employs 8 full-time workers, 8 full-time workers, 8 full-time workers, provides part-time work to young people in the summer.
How important is it for you knowing that you're providing a livelihood for other people in your community?
Some of the guys, they actually tell me, I don't know, because in the area that I live, it's a lot of crime there, and sometimes you get in the wrong direction, you'll do the wrong thing. He said, but coming to work, it never crosses my mind.
part of the larger trend that's seen the U.S. lose almost 70% of its textile manufacturing jobs in the past 20 years.
We have downsized on more than one occasion, but you never get used to it.
Staley Vincent is Director of Human Resources and a second-generation employee.
A lot of people have come through this plant, fed their families, built homes, provided an excellent source of income. Manufacturing supports the middle classes in this country.
Detroit is home for the brains behind Global Automotive Alliance, and this is their new headquarters. It was a FedEx building, and the company picked Detroit as headquarters with autonomous and electric vehicles in mind to be in a prime position to grow in that arena as they also integrate their own businesses. And in their 75,000 square foot facility is where they will integrate and improve efficiency for GAA's 5 logistic and manufacturing companies, as well as serve as a place for entrepreneurs to share ideas and grow.
What we find out is we know in this community, in our community, there are young people out there right now that have that same will, the same determination, and all they need is a chance.
Jill Ford is head of innovation and entrepreneurship for the city of Detroit.
It gives an opportunity for young people and people with great ideas to know that throughout our neighborhoods and throughout the city, there is an opportunity to start and grow your business.
And right now, GAA has over 1,600 employees across the country, over 200, I should say, here in Metro Detroit, and they hope to grow that number.
While most Europeans are facing cuts and austerity, every Norwegian has become a millionaire. The country's sovereign wealth fund recently hit a milestone value of around $800 billion, which means every citizen in Norway is worth about 1 million Norwegian kroner each. Well, on paper at least. Sadly, they can't get their hands on the cash because the money is being kept under the mattress by the Norwegian government, which has been saving up the windfall generated by North Sea oil since the late 1960s.
The FT has been taking a look at the investment strategy of Qatar Holding, a sovereign wealth fund that has been extremely aggressive with its global acquisitions since 2009.
This is a really important sovereign wealth fund. You've got to remember that since 2008, just after the financial crisis broke, that this is a fund that's been receiving $30 to $40 billion a year to invest. They're claiming returns of around 20%, just under 20%. That's pretty spectacular. Of course, the S&P, if you look at that, the returns somebody investing in the S&P since then, they would have got 15%. But by unanimous judgment, this is a very remarkable fund. And they've done some big investments, like in Barclays, in the Xstrata Glencore deal, biggest mining merger ever, and they've done very well.
And while the shopping focus today is on small business, there's one group of vendors that hopes you'll pay special attention. Eyewitness News reporter Naomi Peskovitz checked out the women and minority small business market and shows us how these companies are growing by working together.
Rows of minority and female business owners show signs of progress. Most of these small but mighty companies don't have a storefront at all.
And it's so hard for small businesses to get a foothold. So this is one way that we thought we'd help the community. Think of it as economic infrastructure redevelopment.
Co-founder Geraldine Lewis, her three sisters, and their mom started the market. They also own a skincare line for sale here. Now in its third year, more than 40 small businesses have set up shop, selling things like purses, jewelry, pottery, and for Marcia Quarles, dessert.
We make all kinds of things from specialty cakes and desserts, pies, cookies. We do catering. We do a lot of weddings.
For these small minority businesses, days like these are important for selling their product, but it's just as crucial for marketing and getting their names out there.
Small businesses need your support.
Shoppers like Lorraine Weatherly found out about the market on Facebook, but she's not just here to shop.
I'm networking with other people, seeing what brought them out here, what caused them to start their businesses, and what inspired them.
The hope that other women and minorities will feel confident jumping into the market on their own, especially this holiday shopping season.
It gives us an opportunity to get in on that holiday cash, and it gives us an opportunity to be known to the community. The more money we make, the more money we spend.
It is one of the largest job placement agencies in the country, based right here in Chicago, and tonight it's accused of discriminating against blacks and exploiting Hispanics. CBS 2's Dorothy Tucker explains what's behind the explosive allegations.
Before the sun rises, day laborers wait inside the offices of MVP Staffing back in September 2015, hoping to be called to work the temporary jobs at factories across Chicago and its suburbs. Kevin James was often among the crowd.
Or they'll call out names, pretty much, and tell you, Johnny, you on bus 1. Jose, you're on bus 2.
Was your name ever called?
No.
For the 20 times or so you went out there?
No. The majority of the people who was being called, were Hispanic.
James is a father of 2.
It made me infurious. It hurts right now as I talk about it. I'm just coming here to work like anyone else. So why am I not getting sent out?
The why can be found in a class action lawsuit that alleges MVP Staffing discriminates against blacks, preferring to hire Hispanics. At MVP offices in Waukegan, Latino workers tell why.
It's easy for them to get used and, you know what I mean, for them to screw them over.
It also saves companies money, according to plaintiff's attorney Chris Williams. He says MVP used a coding system that distinguished black applicants from Hispanic ones because many are illegal immigrants and less likely to complain.
The staffing agencies can cheat the workers out of overtime. They short their hours. It allows the companies to shortcut on safety considerations, which obviously saves money.
What would you like to see happen?
I would like to see more doors open. You know, I would like to see more people being able to work because it's hard out here.
MVP has 60 offices in 38 states, hiring an estimated 20,000 workers a day for its clients. Clients in Chicago include packing companies, a chocolate factory, a bakery. Some of them are also named in the lawsuit.
Then you take the money and the wealth that you get from that first floor and go to the second floor. The second floor is politics. You then take that money on the first floor and you control your politics. Black folk must quit allowing people to tell them to go out and vote. Vote for what? Nobody's going to do anything for black folk in politics. Politics is controlled by money, major corporations who got the money. That's what controls politics. If you have no money, you have no say-so, you have no benefits coming. So you take your money and you control, and you take your money from the first floor, you buy every politician on the second floor. And any politician you can't buy, you rent or lease them to get what you need. Then once you get the second floor under control with the politician, with your money, then you go to the third floor. The third floor then is the police department and the court systems. You take your money from the first floor and your politics on the second floor, and you control the court system and the police departments. Then the fourth floor then is media. You then take the money that you generate off the first floor from business and industries, and you go after radio stations, TV stations, newspapers, and cable systems, so that you can now inform and communicate with your own people. Right now, black folk own and control less than 35 thousandths of 1% of the media in the United States. Out of 12,000 radio stations, black folk own about 75, 80. That's all. You own no cable systems. You don't have a daily newspaper. You have nothing of importance. You got about one black TV station. And so you can't communicate with your people. You can't inform your people. You can't do anything. You can have Rush Limbaugh and all the rest of the guys talking about racism all day long and bad-mouthing you. And O'Reilly's. They can call black folk all kind of names all day long. What are you going to do? You can't respond. You can't even communicate with your own people because you don't have an economic base. 51% of all the prisoners in the United States are black people. You only make up 12% of the population. That's no accident. It's because you don't control the economics and the politics. And they're going to go after the weakest people they can get their hands on to incarcerate them. That's the black folk. And what are you going to do in response to them when they over incarcerate you? You're going to go out and have a march, a demonstration. We're going to march. March for what? Who cares? Marching, they never changed anything.
I propose a plan for reparations for slavery. Just as the German nation has paid $89 billion in reparations to Jewish organizations since World War II, and just as the United States has paid $20,000 in reparations to descendants of those who were in Japanese internment camps during World War II, I propose a $100 billion plan of reparations to be paid over 10 years. I submit that we should choose a council of esteemed African-American leaders who were given over a 10-year period $10 billion a year, and this money should be dispersed as they deem most appropriate in order for economic and educational revitalization to be achieved within the black community.
Kind of a provocative comment in your new book here, Mug, and I think it's on page 151. You write that various groups, feminists, gay rights groups, and those who are defending immigrants have commandeered the black civil rights experience.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that because I think it's one of the most important points of the book. I mean, I think the way liberals have treated blacks like children, and many of their policies have been harmful to blacks. At least they got the beneficiary group right. We do have to, we shouldn't. There is the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow laws. We don't owe the homeless. We don't owe feminists. We don't owe women who are desirous of having abortions, but or gays who want to get married to one another. That's what civil rights has become for much of the left. They dropped the blacks after 5 minutes.
Immigrant rights are not civil rights?
No, I think civil rights are for blacks.
See, this is essentially the problem, and the Republicans don't understand.
What have we done to the immigrants? We owe black people something. We have a legacy of slavery. Immigrants haven't even been in this country.
As we all know, Congress recently approved paying over $1 trillion to African Americans as reparations for slavery. Well, today, the first checks were sent out. Wendy Mullen is standing by live in Queens with more. Wendy?
Thanks, Chuck. We're standing here in front of the Olympic Liquor Store in Queens, where scores of African Americans have been lined up for hours.
Well, these checks aren't just affecting things on Beach Street. Wall Street is having a big day as well. Our financial correspondent, Michael Peterson, is there. Michael, what's happening?
Chuck, a lot of activity, as you can imagine, here on the market. These people are spending money like hotcakes. Cadillac announced that they sold 3 million Escalade trucks this afternoon alone. It's incredible, Chuck. These people just seem to be breaking their necks to give this money right back to us. These people just seem to be breaking their necks to give this money right back to us. These people just seem to be breaking their necks to give this money right back to us. Folks, I am happy to report that the recession is now officially over, and we have nobody to thank but all these black people with their taste for expensive clothes, fancy cars, and, of course, gaudy jewelry.
So often people will talk with me about being the first African American woman to own a billion-dollar business. While I accept that applause with all the gratitude I can muster, the best thing that I could ever be applauded for is simply being another woman building a great business. I dream of a time when women can achieve and they are applauded because of their first innovative idea. Being the first African American woman to achieve anything in 2016 is not an accomplishment. It truly is a reason to look to how being the first is part of our history.
Hey, this is Bo Shell. I'm the Little Ice Cream Dude. I'm the founder, owner, and CEO of Cool World, and this is the remix.
His name is Bo Shell. Yes, Bo Shell started his first entrepreneurship journey at 8 years old. 8 years old. 8.
I was 8 years old when I started my business, Little Ice Cream Dude. I wanted to start my own business because I wanted to make money so I could do the things I love, such as give to my school as a missionary or help my family when they need help.
Listen, founder, CEO, and not only is he the CEO of Little Ice Cream Boy Cool World, LLC, he's the author. Yeah.
My book, The Coolest Birthday Ever, it is a children's book that tells about how I got started. And so my plan for the book is to teach children the moral of how you can make your own money or become an entrepreneur.
He is doing his thing. What advice would you give other teen entrepreneurs? And one of the coolest things I've heard all year long, he said,
my mom one day when we were going home, she was thinking about saying I'm the next Bill Gates. And I told her I wanted to be the first Bo Shell. And I told her that because I don't want to be a next version of someone. I want to be my own person. I want to be looked up by people. And I want other teen entrepreneurs to be looked up by people. And I want them to be their own first person and their own story. And so they can be unique to themselves.
Black Patriarch